Anyway, welcome to Every Film in the Book. I'm Marcus Wahlberg.
I'm still Danielle.
That's not how we're doing this at all.
That's how we're doing it.
Oh, no.
I brought us in. Hello, I'm Marcus Wahlberg.
Jeez.
Who are you, Michael?
Oh, but if you don't use the intro, it's not gonna make any sense.
I'll use it.
If you don't use that in the intro, though.
I'll use it.
It's all going to be so bad.
Should I redo it?
From the top. Here we go.
Oh my god.
Steve,
Yeah, what's up?
you're not fucking Marcus Wahlberg.
But I could be.
No,
I want
not
to be
even close.
Marcus Wahlberg. Let me be him. Let me do it. Anyway. Whatever.
Steve,
Yeah.
fuck you.
Okay. Fine. Stifle my creativity.
No, that does not get qualified as creativity. That's more like fucking garbage truck.
I'm Marcus Wahlberg, bro.
Garbage truck. Leftovers.
I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, bro. I opened a burger restaurant with my cousins, bro.
Oh my god.
I'm Marcus Wahlberg.
Wahlburgers.
No.
All right.
No,
is-
bad Steve.
Bad
Steve.
Where's the spray bottle?
I'm sorry.
Bad
I
Steve.
was hit
Flick
in the
'em in the-
head this morning, so
Flick 'em
I'm
in the
sorry
nuts.
if I'm a little goofy.
Flick him in the nuts.
Oh, please don't. Welcome to Every Film in the Book. I'm Steve.
I'm Danielle.
And it's Sinister.
The Sinister Blu-ray trademark.
Yes, it is Sinister.
Yeah. Danielle really wanted to watch this movie.
I did really
This was
wanna
on
watch
the
this
top
movie.
of our list for so many weeks
Yes.
of films to watch.
It was a couple months.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
we finally broke it out for our first October episode. So we
Yeah.
figured, kick it off with a pretty decent horror movie, I'd say.
Yeah, I always liked this horror movie because it was one of those mess with your mind sort of horror movies. It's not, like not super jump scary, although there are some, and it's not super like gory and slashy. It's more like slowly gets to you.
Well, all right. So I have two things, and everything you just said leads me into both of those things. So I'm just going
Great.
to talk about them now.
Amazing.
So scientifically, this was categorized as the scariest movie ever.
By who?
Wait,
No,
what do you mean scientifically?
Now what they
Scientifically
did was
scary.
they got a bunch of people, they put them in a theater, and they tested their heart rate, and they tested them with a bunch of movies that people considered like the scariest or had like some jump scares and stuff like that get your heart rate going. So after the end of this study, this movie had people's heart rates the most elevated by the end of it. So they deemed it the scariest movie based on people's reactions by their heart rates. So it's it's kind of interesting, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely not, like I said, it's not jump scare scary, so I guess it wouldn't qualify in that aspect where it's like, it's not peaks of your heart rate going up, but it's more like consistently just like keeping you on edge.
Well, yeah, and that brings me to the second thing I wanted to talk about. So their use of jump scares throughout this movie. So I feel like a lot of like these modern horror movies, like stuff like The Nun, or like half of these Conjuring spin-offs that they're putting out, like they end their scare with a jump scare, and it like there's nowhere to go from that, because then the story just kind of mellows out, and we're back to like the supermarket, and we're like, I can't buy groceries because my hands are shaking from the ghosts. But like this movie does it right, where it starts the scary scene with a jump scare. Like,
Right.
look at that scene where he's walking around the house in the middle of the night and all the kids are popping up. Like, it starts with that little girl's face popping out at you, and then the scene just kind of creeps along from there, and then it ends with like another jump. So it kind of like bookends things with jumps, but continues the scare. It doesn't like cut to the next morning and he's like, oh man, that was freaky. Time to drink my coffee.
Yeah, that's definitely something that modern horror movies do a lot, is that they just want to throw a jump scare in there, but it has no real purpose.
Yeah.
Whereas like when the jump scare first started to become a regular thing in movies, it was more intentional. And I think they did that really well in this movie. It was 2012, so it wasn't like, I mean, it was 10 years ago, I guess, but it wasn't that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, this is peak end of the world conspiracy.
Oh, yeah.
We were going to die in 2012.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, we had to get pretty scary movies to compete with real life at that point.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it did have some pretty brutal moments. And if you're not into shit like that, then, you know, this is probably a pretty scary movie. I've seen it several times and it's still kind of creepy.
Yeah, like I still remember going to see this for the first time in the theater, and this movie freaked me out to the point where I had to call my friends and I was like, guys, you have to come see this movie and confirm that it's just as scary as I thought it was. And like, they were all freaked out by the end of it, except for my one friend who was just laughing the whole time because of the soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, no, this was one of those few horror movies that came out along with like The Conjuring, or at least the first one, that like really kind of like played off of like these like starting with the jump scares and then leading into these like more terrifying scenes. Like they just did it really well.
Yeah, they showed a different way to do it.
Yeah.
So for years, like in the 2000s, you saw the same pretty much.
Yeah, I mean, we were coming off of the like torture porn era, like all the Saws and all
the
that.
hostels and stuff
are kind of done with.
So they get back into a different style of it, and they're like, okay, well, we need to do something different to keep people interested. And you know, a couple of those movies back then did a good job at kind of not changing the future of horror films, but just adding a different twist to it. Then,
right? Yeah, no, like it's such a cool concept of like incorporating like the true crime kind of author style into like almost like a modern day horror film with like, you know, you got your spiritual aspects of it, you got like the demonic and all that.
Your found footage.
Yeah, your found footage.
Little found
like,
footage.
That's definitely not a common thing at all.
Right.
Found footage.
Definitely not.
Definitely
like,
not.
Paranormal Activity definitely never came out.
And there's not 13 of those.
But yeah, like there's also the twist at the end that you had no way of knowing.
Right.
Which we'll get into. But like, yeah, I think overall, it's just a solid movie.
Yeah, it's a solid film.
I think the first thing we all said while we were watching this film is, wow, they really get right to it.
Yeah.
So
there's no fluff.
45 seconds into the movie, you kind of know what's going on.
Yeah, like this movie literally opens up with a murder. Like,
yeah.
It's it cuts to this like grainy, like, you know, Super 8 film.
The old found footage.
Yeah. He literally found the footage.
Yep.
Right. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's this family. They're tied to a tree. They got bags over their heads, and instantly you're just like, well, they're definitely not out for a picnic.
This doesn't look great.
Well, they're not making it past the fucking credits.
Well, these aren't the main characters, I guess.
Nope.
Yeah, and you just see one of those like Reaper arms like sawing at the tree branch, and it cuts it.
I didn't see the first one or two times I saw this movie. I was like,
really?
How did the tree branch fall? Like, I didn't notice it at all until I saw it, you know, probably like the third time.
Oh, okay. But yeah, like you see this thing like sawing a tree branch out, like, you know, in the background. The tree branch falls, it hangs this family, and then the film cuts and you just see Sinister, and we're into the movie. Mm-hmm. Like, there's no like explanation. It's just, look, people are dying. All right, cool. Welcome to the family.
Yep.
Like, it's insane. Like, I think it's only probably about an hour and a half maybe an hour and 40 runtime.
Yeah, no, it's not that long of a movie for sure.
Yeah, and they definitely don't waste your time like getting into it and establishing what you're about to see.
But I must say that the DVD version is a little experience in itself getting into the movie. If you know what you're in for, the trailers they had were good, and then the music and the title menu.
Yeah.
Like it was all, and I don't know if I probably haven't watched a DVD movie in quite a while.
It's Blu-ray,
so it was like,
Michael.
Whatever. Whatever. It's got
I
a
spent the
menu.
money on the Blu-ray. Acknowledge it.
Whatever. Okay, your extra 78 cents can go fuck themselves. But you know, it pulls up this thing, and it's a little thing in its own, and
Sets the mood.
For years we've just been streaming everything,
Yeah.
so it's like putting in the Blu-ray. Excuse me.
Yeah, thank you.
And then letting the whole thing run till the menu was kind of a little
Sets
experience
the
in its own. Yeah.
mood.
Yeah, it's such a nice it's a nice menu screen. It's like
10 out of 10 menu screen, let me tell you.
Yeah, imagine hearing those noises in your bed at night. Just that's what it sounds like. Everybody at home who's listening to this.
Yeah. And so after we see that first initial scene, you get introduced to the main family. And again, like we said, there's not a lot of fluff. They don't spend a whole lot of time like having meaningless conversations or like walking around. Like it's really like they get to the point. They basically explain that Ethan Hawke, what's his name?
Ellison
is an author.
Eleanor.
Something.
Elizabeth.
He is an author for
True crime.
True crime, but then he also tried fiction, I guess. And
Yes.
he's moving into
Apparently
a house.
sucked at it.
Yeah. He's moving into a house, and some cops outside make some comment saying like, "Oh, this is in bad taste." So you're kind of like, "Oh, what happened in this house?
Why are you thinking this is in bad taste?"
Yeah. And he's moving into the house, and I think he pretty much goes up to the attic like right away.
Yeah, like that's his first day in the house.
They do make a point to show you, to show us as the viewer, him discovering the like branch that had been cut down in the backyard.
Yeah.
So they established that, and that's what we first seen. So then you're like, oh, he moved him in there.
Yeah, like you kind of figure out like, oh shit, he moved him into the murder house before he even admits that they moved him into a murder house.
Yeah. And his wife says to him like, "Oh, so like we're not 2 houses down from a murder that just happened, right?" And he's like,
technically,
no.
technically,
Yeah,
he's
but
not lying. Technically, he's not lying.
But technically, she says, "You know what? Never mind. I don't want to know.
That's
Don't
true.
tell me."
She does say
so
that.
she can't technically get mad at him because she technically never wanted to know.
She can.
It's on tape too.
Technically, he's an asshole for doing any of this. So
I mean,
she's
I'm
allowed
not-
to yell at him no matter what.
Yeah, that's kind of a dick move.
he isn't a very good person, but she did technically say, and if you rewind the film, we can confirm that she did not want to know.
Yeah, but still, not super great thing to do to your family.
Not
Everybody-
good dead vibes.
Everybody listening at home, this is a PSA. Don't move your family into a murder house. I feel like that's self-explanatory.
Even if you got it on the cheap, okay?
Even if you got it on the cheap.
Because I think the other thing was he was kind of going broke a little bit. And
Yeah, well, he's a
needed to-
washed-up writer.
Well,
His last hit was 10 years ago.
Yeah, they made it a point to say that a couple times. They're like,
Yeah.
oh, what if, that was 10 years ago.
Yeah, his
That was
big
so long
book,
ago.
Kentucky Blood. Terrible name.
And they don't talk about it a whole lot.
Yeah, no. Nothing about what it was about. But apparently he, got it right and ended up catching the people responsible. So he's got this, like, superiority complex where he's like, well, I did it once. I can do it again.
Right?
So that's why he moves his family into a freaking murder house.
Well, yeah. You got to.
You just got
gotta.
to. Don't worry about it.
You got to see if you and your family got what it takes.
Can you survive the murder house?
Dun, dun,
This
dun.
summer on CBS.
The hardest part for me would be writing the book.
I'd be too
All right,
busy
I
exploring the
survived.
murder house.
I survived the murder house, but I'm only on chapter 2.
Yes. So he's moving his family into the murder house. He talks to the cops, and the cops are basically like, dude, we don't want the circus that you bring to the towns that you start writing for. Like, we just want to forget. Like, please get out of here.
Keep it cool.
And, you know, of course, he's got the cocky attitude of like, well, if a cop is telling me I'm wasting my time, obviously I'm in the right spot, so I'm going to keep investigating.
Right.
And that's when he goes up to the attic and he sees this like office box that everybody seems to be able to pack up their desks when they get fired with. Like, it's like that stereotypical like office box.
I never got one of those.
Yeah, I know. I want one. It can fit your entire life into this box. Yeah. Everybody comes home with one. But yeah, so he finds this box in his attic and it's labeled home movies, and there's a Super 8, tape player. There's a bunch of reels of film, and he's like, well, this might be a fun afternoon to figure out what this is about.
And he pretty much starts playing them like immediately.
Yeah, and he gets right to work, and that's we see our first video, and that's kind of like the recurring theme in this. We keep seeing like more and more of these videos throughout the film.
Now, I will say, I have no idea why he wanted to move into this house if he didn't think that there was going to be like some sort of evidence. But it is very convenient that he finds it immediately.
I literally think he just moved them into there because...
Like, did he find them previously?
No. I literally think it's just because, like, what you said, or what he says later, like, he was broke and he's going to investigate this crime anyway. Yeah. So move him into the cheap house where the crime took place, and it kind of...
No, I just mean, like, how did he find that box of films so quickly?
Well, I think the demon meant him to find them.
Yeah. There was really no fat on this movie. So.
Yeah, no. So they can't like fuck around and be like, oh, well, maybe he'll discover him in his closet or something.
5 minutes past, like.
But even at the one dinner, she's like, oh, we ordered out or whatever.
Yeah.
And she was like, don't get used to it.
Yeah, it's one of the few times we can do this. Like, we don't have the money.
He explains that their old house hasn't sold yet.
Right.
Yeah,
and once he sells like this new book that he's writing, they'll be eating out all the time. But like, I think they're just down on their luck, so they bought a murder house because it was probably like $20.
Well, yeah, I get that. I'm just saying, like, did he really think he was going to find anything? I don't know.
Probably not. I think it was just, it happened in the backyard. So if he was going to find anything, the house is probably the best place to start.
That's how he rationalized it to himself. Like, they get in an argument about it, and he's like, no, it was in the backyard. And that's how you like, rationalize it to yourself.
Yeah, our kids aren't sleeping in blood stains. They're just sleeping adjacent to blood stains. It's fine.
They're just looking out the window and playing on the swing set. And
aren't they cute next to the murder spot? Isn't it great, honey?
Hey, she didn't want to know.
She didn't want to know. In her defense,
tree for them to swing upon. Am I right?
Oh my God, we could put a rope swing, honey.
So stuff starts to get a little weird.
Yeah, so he watches
a little bit weird.
He ends up watching one of these tapes that he finds in the attic, and of course it's the murder that took place at his house. So it's literally the scene we saw at the beginning of the movie. He's completely shocked by this, and us as the viewers, like, yeah, no, this is old news. We saw this at the beginning. Don't worry about it. Like, I'm sure it's gonna get worse from here.
Does he break out the whiskey?
Oh yeah,
the first time
he freaks out
instantly.
Yeah.
This man has no self-control.
Yeah, he freaks out.
I saw something I didn't want to. That was a little shocking. I got a bottle around here somewhere.
Like, hey, I've been working in true crime for about 10 years. One murder really sets me off, though. Like,
I mean, I don't know if he's ever had evidence like this where it's like on tape,
like a recorded.
Yeah,
probably
it's
not.
Like
this is definitely a shock to him.
Yeah, like I don't think he was watching this on the regular. Like,
he's like, honey, pop the popcorn. We got another snuff film we gotta watch.
He's real into murder porn.
Right? No, it's great. Let me get drunk first.
What if he just started like, oh, let me just grab my lube.
Honey, break.
Sorry, is that too much?
Honey, break out the PBR. We're going to watch another murder. I found it in the attic.
Jesus.
Oh, my God, it's terrible.
But this definitely wasn't a family activity because the first rule is Don't go in daddy's
Don't
office.
go in dad's office.
And the rule is always lock dad's office.
Oh yeah, because he's got to be a little. I don't know. He just felt very like submissive.
Yeah.
He just felt very submissive.
Well, I can kind of see her point, because from that point, like, you know, when they are sitting at this dinner and she's like, yeah, we can't order out all the time. Like, she does, like, the son kind of brings up, like, oh, well, you know, I found out about these murders before, or like I found out about the things dad was writing about before. Like, you might as well just tell me now, because I'm going to find out. Like, I am a kid in school and kids talk.
Wouldn't it be better to hear it from you?
Right. And of course the mom's like, no, I don't even want to hear about this stuff. Like, you're too young to hear about this stuff. Like, let's just drop it. And then, you know, we're on to the next day.
Yeah.
Where he fully dives into, you know, this investigation.
Yeah.
I think that's when he breaks out the second video.
Probably. I mean, he watches like one every day, seems to be the thing.
Yeah, because like it seems like this movie takes place over like a long period of time, but it's only about maybe 2 weeks that they're in this house before, you know, things start getting a little too crazy for them.
Right.
But yeah, what I forget what the second video was. You know, it's kind of crazy. Like, I've seen this so many times, I forget what the second video is.
The second one is the is it the car or the bedroom? Yeah, the car.
It's the car, or is it the pool?
And then it's the bedroom, and then it's the pool. Yeah.
Oh, it's the car, the bedroom, the pool. Okay,
Pretty
yeah.
sure.
So the next video,
I think so.
yeah,
I'm not sure. The order still confuses me.
Whatever. They're all cool. We'll just talk about them in that order, I guess.
Yeah, so we'll get to the car first. So, you know, it's his first day of fully investigating. He's watching his, you know, the murder that happened at his house first.
Which I don't understand why he doesn't just watch this during the day when it's less scary outside.
You know, it's like he's trying to piss his pants.
Yeah.
But he, you know, he's taking notes while he's watching it. He's like, oh, where's Stephanie? Which is the little girl that went missing from that video. And he's like, who's filming the video?
Yeah, these are like the only notes he's writing down, and they're like super huge on his notepad. Like he's never taken notes before.
Super basic.
He's got a nice 12 by 12 piece of paper, and he's taking up the whole thing with 2 notes.
Yeah.
Who's Stephanie? Who film?
Good
That's
notes,
whole
dude.
page. Oh my god. But yeah, so, you know, he's writing down his notes, and then he's, you know, I guess he's feeling cocky after his 5th shot of 4 roses or whatever he's drinking.
Oh, because he'd pour a glass, down it, and pour another one, and then set that one down.
He would down it like it was freaking iced tea. He's like chugging liquor like it's free.
That's what people do in movies. They just drink liquor like it's a tasty
Yeah, it's like they
beverage.
don't have that like instant kickback of like, oh, whoa, that's a lot of liquor to be drinking at once.
Hey man, when you're watching videos like that,
But yeah, so
you gotta send them down.
So after his 5th shot of whatever, he then loads up the second video, and the second video cuts to, you know, a family fishing. You know, they're having a good time out on the lake, whatever. Then it cuts to a garage, and you see the family kind of like tied up in their car.
Yeah, and there's a lot of chains and tape.
A lot of chains, a lot of tape, a lot of cans of
Gasoline.
gasoline stacked inside the car. Then the camera kind of pans out to the hood, and you see like a little flaming bottle go flying, and it lights the car on fire.
And
Now
it's rocking back and forth like people are inside trying to get out.
But it's kind of cool the way they show it to you, because like they're showing it through the reflection in Ethan Hawke's glasses, so it's like they're showing you these like gruesome
I thought that
things.
happened later.
That was when they were in the beds.
Well, it also happens in the beds, but it shows it in the fire as well.
Oh, okay.
Like it kind of like they're showing you these gruesome things, but they never actually like full on show it to you.
Well, sometimes they do, but like it's either a quick cut of showing something gruesome, or like you said, like showing kind of out of frame, or
indirectly showing.
Right.
Like there's some form
like
of,
you can see what's happening, but you never fully get like that onward glance at it.
Except for that first guy with the lawnmower.
Yeah, but even that cuts away really quick.
And that happens later.
Yeah. But, you know, he sees the second film and instantly gets freaked out, and he's like, all right, I might be on to something here. Like, there's got to be something to these murders. Like, they can't just be coincidence. And I found them all in my attic. So, I have to be tied into this.
He also reacts the same exact way to each new snuff film he puts
like,
in the machine to watch on purpose.
I didn't expect the family to be murdered in this one.
Oh, Jesus. This is horrifying.
It's like you knew it happened.
Yeah.
Then you watched it happen. Then there was another video. Like,
it's like, this one was labeled family hanging out. I thought it was a family hanging out at an amusement park, not hanging from the tree in my backyard. I am Ethan Hawke. That's my Ethan Hawke impersonation.
that's also so terrible.
I am Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, that's not what he sounds like.
I am a true crime writer from California.
Jeez.
Yeah, so, what happens next?
In between all the times that he's watching these films, we're going back to the family. And they do, show both children kind of having struggles. So you're not really sure if one of them is being affected by everything that's going on. Because you have the son who gets night terrors. And the one time he wakes up, like he pops out of a box.
Oh yeah, this is like our first like night in the house. Like
right.
Ethan Hawke hears a couple of creepy noises. Is this when the power goes out?
I think it happened like twice, but
yeah. But he's basically exploring the house, and he gets to his garage, and there's this like cardboard box in there, and it's kind of like moving and like scuffling. And his son comes like flipping out of the box, and he's screaming and like...
Yeah, it sounds like a demonic sort of voice. So like I didn't even realize that it was his son at first.
Yeah, like they write it off as the kid having a night terror, but I'm like, if my kid ever
made those sounds
like that out of a box, that kid is getting lit on fire instantly.
I mean,
whoa.
They both
that is a demon, and I feel nothing for it.
Wow.
What were you going to say, Michael?
No,
Sorry, I'm talking about burning my own son here.
They both the parents like didn't freak out. They were just like, "Oh, we get him outside, get some air." So
like,
it definitely looked like they had handled that
and
before.
they talk about that he's had this before, and then it happens a second time, and the wife is saying that it's getting worse, and it's worse than it's ever been. So
right.
Definitely seems like it's affecting him.
Yeah, like they do a good job of showing you that like just being in this house, whether the kids know about what happened there or not, like it's affecting them, and it's affecting the entire family, not just like Ethan Hawke.
Yeah, I'm sure it doesn't really matter if we jump around, but like the little girl's whole thing is she likes to paint on the walls, and the one time she paints in the hallway, and she's like, "Oh yeah, Stephanie told me to do that." And they're like, "What are you talking about?" And she's like, "Yeah, it's the little girl who used to live here. It's the one that Daddy's writing his book about." And then she's like, "Go to your room."
Right? You're about to die, little girl.
No. She's like, "I'm about to scream at your father."
And they have it out pretty good.
Several times.
Well, I mean, their entire marriage basically almost gets unraveled because of this whole situation. Because he's so obsessed with writing this book and like trying to uncover what's happening. Like, I gotta be honest, after seeing that first video of what happened in my house, nah, fuck that, I'm out. Like, I mean, I guess that would be counterproductive, but like still, like, fuck that. I'm not gonna continue with this.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Michael? What were you saying? Come on.
Oh my God, Steve.
Steve's talkative today.
Steve's just running 8 sentences in a row, and now it doesn't even matter.
What do you mean it doesn't even matter? Tell me what you're gonna say.
I forget what I was gonna say.
Everyone's entitled to their opinion, Michael.
Apparently,
even Ellison,
all right, well,
the terrible true crime writer.
We're talking about them fighting a lot because of all the stuff that they went through.
But yeah, and then at some point we do get a third film, and that's what is labeled Sleepy Time. And
yes.
So like when we cut to this film, it's just like a camera angle of somebody walking through a house. You kind of see like family photos hidden on the wall, and then it kind of like cuts to like this symbol, and this is like the first kind of introduction to what we get of like our demon in this movie, like his first kind of like calling card. And then it, you know, continues throughout the house, and we see, you know, parents are tied to a bed. The Taco Bell Chihuahua dog is sitting there yelling at whoever's filming this, and he goes and, you know, starts cutting people's throats.
Yeah. And that's the one where they actually show in the reflection of the glasses the first throat slit, because they, I guess, don't really want to show that on full screen.
Right. And then especially the last one is this, like, it's some little kid that this that they're cutting
he
the throat
turns
of.
away and the screen gets all blurry.
Yeah, and he's like chugging whiskey out of the bottle like it's the worst thing he's ever seen, which it probably is.
A 7-year-old guy its throat slit, big deal.
And grow up, you're a true crime writer.
It is interesting to see like how each of the videos, you know, has an effect on the family, on him, and then, you know, just the physical state of all of it. Like, the film's mostly in the dark, but I feel like earlier in the film they have the lights on a lot more,
Right.
and then he sees the first thing, and then it darkens a little bit, so it like steps down, and his drinking and his behavior and him and his wife's fighting gets just steps, you know, progressively gets worse with each video.
Yeah. And like you can kind of see it throughout the house, like each scene when they're, you know, even when they're in their house during the day, like they have the blinds closed, like the curtains closed, like, so it just starts feeling more and more like somber as like the movie goes on.
More and more somber.
Yeah. It's a good word.
I like your description, Steve. But yeah,
The music the whole time.
yeah, I was just gonna say something about the music.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
So for me, I think the first few times where they use, you know, the soundtrack to really, you know, bolster a scene is the times where it was either one of his kids sleeping or something not related to Mr. Boogie, who we see later. So for me, I like how they do it throughout the whole film. I think they just did it the same way too many times. Because it is similar sounds and whatnot going through the film. But I think they should have switched it up a little bit or toned it down for the kid coming out of the box, or, you know, the dog with the kids in the background, because there was no, like, contact. So they seem to hype up with sound each significant thing that happened, no matter what you know, category it fell into.
Because like I do feel like, you know, like we kind of said at the beginning, like it kind of does well with these jump scares, but it does also kind of fall into that category where it's just like a loud noise, or like, you know, it's just a constantly repeating loud noise in the background, and it you know, it does kind of start feeling very similar. Like
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say though that there was like a soundtrack to the whole thing, and it wasn't just like random sounds, and like a lot of times it really like had this like swelling sort of sound in the background that, I mean, I couldn't even pinpoint it to any sort of like instrument. It's not like it was a composition of anything, but you know, it was an atmospheric thing that I thought really made the whole movie suspenseful. And yes, there were times that you could tell that they were repeating the same soundtrack, but I mean, they mixed it up in the end a little bit, and they had the more like percussive sounds to, like, you know, mimic your heart rate increasing and stuff like that. But I do like that they had that throughout the whole movie. It just made everything feel suspenseful, and there weren't any moments of like screeching violins. Like,
yeah, there was a few moments.
Well, I mean,
of that.
like, there weren't extended moments of just like some, you know, a lot of modern horror movies.
It certainly
do that.
wasn't the typical soundtrack that you would, you know, expect from a horror film.
Like, it literally sounded like they took the sound of like the Super 8 film going through the reel and like hitting the bottom, and then they just kept like looping that on top of each other.
It was very like pulsating, like, very rhythmic.
Like
which does, you know, I don't know if you want to talk about your studies more, but apparently like music and like mimicking heart rate can make you increase your heart rate.
What kind of like when they were doing this study is something they found out is like certain tones that they played throughout the movie are specifically selected because they're meant to make you feel uncomfortable. Like there's certain like high pitched screeching, like it was like high beeping that I heard, you know, I think it was like towards like the beginning or like in the middle of it where like I heard it in my ears. I'm like, oh, fuck, like just turn it off. All right, I get it. You're doing enough.
Actually making you uncomfortable.
Yeah, so like they really thought about the soundtrack. So it's good that you guys brought it up because like they really, you can kind of tell they put some thought into like what makes people uncomfortable. What would be like a repetitive sound that would like kind of throw you off, and like what if we loop it at like different times and it like just throws you off of like your rhythm.
Well, and they still did a good job of building tension.
Yeah.
And then, you know, like we said, there wasn't a lot of fluff, so it didn't need to be that intricate. It was you know, it's like setting up was one thing. Like I don't even like there was no music at the beginning.
Yeah, no.
Right.
And then when he finds that stuff in the attic, then the music starts and it doesn't stop because the
only thing we hear from the beginning is like, you know, the clicking of a film camera turning on and the clicking of what it sounds like when film goes through the reel. That's all you really hear.
Which is very creepy.
Yeah, like it's naturally like a creepy thing, but like when you're also seeing people being hung from a tree, like you're also like, oh, okay, all right, now I'm really.
Now I've associated that in my brain, and every time I hear
every time I go to the movie,
I'll be like, oh, God.
No, that poor family. Family hanging out. 2009.
I do like how in some instances they kept it simple.
Yeah.
And the simple made it way better.
Right. Well, explore that a little bit. Where do you think they kept it like more simple?
Well, just with like going outside in the yard. Like he didn't go in the woods and it made you think that he went like 500 yards.
Oh,
he was like
okay,
15 feet in his backyard.
So like everything kind of like took place within the radius of the house.
Yeah, and then the same thing with, we were seeing symbols in the videos. So for him to see the scorpion and the snake, it was just like a visualization of stuff in the video. So nothing seemed too like far-fetched or crazy.
Right,
like it all,
like out of the ordinary.
It all fit neatly, which the whole film was neatly packed, so it does make sense.
Right.
But they didn't add too much fluff, even with the reasoning for why what was happening was happening. It was like, well, it's this guy that does this. Oh, okay, cool.
Right.
And I think they did a good job of giving it credit too with you said the name of the actor on the laptop, the professor.
Oh, Vincent D'Onofrio.
Yeah, so it kind of gives you some authenticity of like, oh, all right, they did a little bit of work into this,
research.
and just enough to be like, to add another layer, but also not be too much to where you're like, okay, well, is this real? Is this not real? It's like, well, they gave one explanation for it the whole time.
Yeah. Well, I'm just glad, you know, instead of like in every freaking horror movie where it's like, oh, we need our scene at the library where we're figuring out what's going on. Like, like everything can be suddenly solved because you looked at like the right textbook from the library. Like, I'm glad they actually brought in like, you know, this D'Onofrio character who is an occult specialist, like who's a college professor who writes about this stuff. Like, that's almost more believable than just some random person walking into a library and knowing which like occult book they needed.
Yeah.
Right. And it
that
takes
happens all
11
the time.
minutes.
Yeah. And they're just like, oh my God. So when in this ancient text that I found at the library in subsection B, subheading 3Q, it's like, no.
I found this picture that directly matches what I'm looking for, and I didn't even have to try.
Like, that's so unbelievable. But when you at least have an expert and you dub them an expert in the movie, like, I have an easier time believing, like, oh yeah, there's definitely a cult specialist out there that teach classes about this in some college.
And I think since we watch so many movies, being able to just immediately, that's solid evidence, is fun because now we can go back to paying attention to the movie. We don't have to worry about, is the information we got correct? Because that I feel like happens in so many films where you're given a piece of information that's like misleading or not quite true. And in this, it's just like, here's an expert and here's what's going on.
Yeah. And like okay. It's not like they're trying to like withhold information from you. They tell you everything they know, you know, from the get-go, or at least when he starts talking to this professor. And like, it's not something where it's like they're trying to throw in some false information for the twist at the end. Like, the twist at the end unravels naturally. It's not like they're trying to force it, like, you know, like the Bye-Bye Man or like something like that.
Right.
Like,
ooh, don't think it, don't say it.
Don't think it, don't say it.
Don't think it, don't say it. No shit.
But yeah, I mean, I also like that we go into it assuming that it is a killer or slasher sort of situation, and then find out that it's supernatural, but not in your typical like, oh, my cabinet door's open and it scared me sort of way. Like, like you said, they really go into like the history behind it and give it a legitimate reason why it would be connected to something supernatural.
Right.
One thing I think is, since we haven't seen the killer yet, that's the only reason why we're satisfied with seeing the kills only on tape at this point. And that's something else. Like, normally the killer's established, and then you watch the killer, you know, do the kills. But since it isn't like that, I think the only way it's credible for us is that we don't know what it is. So it's like, it could be something crazy that's doing this. Otherwise, it's not as believable.
I mean, look at Halloween. Like, you're known right from the beginning. Michael, that's the guy we're looking at. That's the killer. Like, from this, you're just kind of like,
you're just shown
like,
what
what's
they do.
happening.
Yeah.
Like there's all these murders. We don't know if they're connected or not. Like, but something's happening, and like there's no explanation for it.
And it's also not one of those where like they show something that happened to somebody else 20 years ago, and it was something
there's no like
spooky.
flashbacks or like any garbage like that.
Except for the film, like all you get to learn about what's going on is through the films.
Yeah, is previous murders, which I think we should probably get to like the fourth
I'm like,
one by
we're
now.
going on a tangent about this. Jeez.
But yeah, so you know he's
pool.
This is a podcast. Pool.
Yeah, like he's slowly unraveling. To get sort of back to the plot, he's slowly unraveling kind of the mystery. He's getting more information. He starts working with Deputy so-and-so from the police department to kind of get more information about these murders that he's viewing on the films.
Who actually does a pretty good job.
Yeah, he does do a good job.
Do we ever learn his name? Or
no, I literally think he's credited as Deputy so-and-so.
Yeah, when he calls him, he says officer whatever and says his name. I just forget what it is.
Yeah, because so-and-so is much more catchy.
Yeah. But so we get to this fourth film, and it's called Pool Party or something. So, you know, it's this family hanging out by the pool. They're having a good time. And then this is where we kind of start seeing something's weird going on. Like, so it cuts, but it cuts to like nighttime at this pool. But it shows like this picture of, I guess, what was once like lemonade or iced tea or something. But there's this glowing green goo in it, or like this glowing green liquid. And that's kind of like the first instance we see of that. But that'll kind of like come into play like later on when we kind of figure out what it does. But like they kind of just show you it and it's nothing. And then we cut to the family kind of like tied to their beach chairs. Yeah, and slowly being pulled into the pool.
Yeah, they have cinder blocks attached to their beach chairs.
I think like duct tape and rope and...
Oh, yeah. Like, this has got to be one of the worst ways to go. Like, you're just being pulled into the pool, like, strapped to a chair.
Yeah, drowning would suck.
I think this one was my favorite, simply for the fact that later on when we get the extended versions of all these videos, the kid goes swimming... in that pool with all the the dead family in the pool. Oh my
god, it's so messed up, dude. Yeah. Like it's like I don't want to be pulled into a pool. Let that be noted. Like when I die, don't pull me into a pool.
Oh, do you want to talk about the last one then too?
Yeah, we might as well because that's like
I think our last one, and then it gets into the ending. So like,
yeah, because like there's more stuff that kind of like happens in the house and like more family drama where like
it's
the wife and him are arguing more and the kids are kind of acting out more and they're getting in trouble at school and they're painting in the walls like Danielle said. So like, you know, the family life is kind of unraveling as
yes.
Yeah.
So it just gets progressively...
Sorry, since we're skipping like 90% of this.
Well, with each video, it just gets worse and worse and worse.
Right.
And it just continues to do so.
Yeah.
So that was the short version of...
Yeah, like he falls through the ceiling. Ghost kids are being seen throughout the house. Whatever. We're skipping that apparently.
Whatever. Well, no, I was just going to talk about this last film because, again, I don't remember exactly when all these are placed per se in reference to everything else going on. But... I really like this one. So we start this one. I don't think we see the family initially in this film, do we?
But it's from outside of the house. Like they're sitting down for like a movie.
They're watching TV or something. It's nighttime.
Yeah.
And then you just see whoever's holding the camera is like walking through a garage and starts the lawnmower and just starts pushing it along, and all you see is grass. And
yeah, and this is the only time where the soundtrack gets completely quiet throughout it. You kind of just barely hear like a lawnmower in the background.
Yeah. And then out of nowhere, after like 5-6 seconds of just watching grass go by, you just see a body in the ground, and the lawnmower's going over its face, and it's a loud sound, and
yeah.
Gets scary.
And like, you know, it immediately cuts to Ethan Hawke like freaking out. Like he jumps back immediately. Like they don't show you anybody getting like eaten by a lawnmower.
For like the 6th time, he freaks out at the next video he put in.
Yeah.
But I think that was the only jump scare relating to a video that they did.
Yeah, kind of.
Like the other ones were just creepy, but this one like had a jump scare within the video.
Yeah, like this one definitely made... You know, like I still remember seeing this particular one in theaters, and like after I went and saw it the second time, I was like just looking at my friends. I'm like, all right, they're gonna jump. They gotta jump. And then when it happened, and they're all like freaking out, and I'm like, gotcha, motherfucker.
Oh, that's great. But yeah, that one is the most jarring, and you do only see one person. But yeah, that one's I think our last like
that's like the last video that kind of convinces him like, all right, maybe I'm onto something a little too deep here.
Right.
But then we get our final night in the house, and that's where shit like really hits the fan.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you know, he's woken up in the middle of the night by like the sounds of his Super 8 player going. So he, you know, goes in to his room, sees that, you know, the film of the family being hung in his backyard is playing. He turns that off. He goes down and he sees that the stairs to his attic are now open. And like, I don't know about you guys, but I don't want an attic specifically for this reason. Because if I ever came home and those stairs are down, I'm burning the house to the ground.
It's just me up in the attic, and I'm like
I was sorting through old photographs.
I was just organizing the attic.
No, I don't fuck with that. I'm burning it to the ground.
Oh, geez.
I'm warning you now, just so in case we ever do have an attic, never be up there when I'm out of the house.
Without letting you know first.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like, if I text you, hey, I'm on my way home, be like, hey, I'm up in the attic. Don't burn the house down.
All right. I'll keep that in mind.
All right, good.
But yeah, it's definitely one of those creepy things. And he still is thinking that somebody's trying to break into his house. I feel like he's thinking someone's trying to murder him.
Right.
Like that's his thought process.
Like he's gone too far with this investigation and he knows too much. Now people are coming after him.
Right. And we have seen the face of the demon sir man.
Bagool. The buffoon.
Mr.
The
Boogie.
boogeyman.
Mr. Boogie.
Yes, Mr. Boogie.
You can't kill the boogeyman.
No, you can't. You have to go into the TV now.
Yeah. So like we're all expecting this guy, this boogeyman, like the whole time you think like he's gonna come out and get you.
Well, it's just crazy because the first time we see him, he's in the pool when people are being pulled under. Like he's walking at the bottom of the pool.
Yeah.
So you're already like, what the fuck is this thing?
Well, they show you just enough to
it's
be
enough.
intrigued.
Yeah.
And also, it lets your imagination run, and it's an excuse to go back and show the footage again.
Right.
And then show him in the footage in the background, which nobody notices the first time.
Right, right.
But it's a good opportunity to reiterate why he's so afraid. And
Right.
yeah, so he puts it all together, and then eventually puts a photo of that face on his corkboard. And then that's when stuff really gets weird.
Yeah, so this is when he's going up to the attic, right? For the last time.
For the last time.
Ooh.
Because he eventually just he's had enough. He's pushed to the limit.
Yeah.
And they gotta leave.
he can only afford so much alcohol. So like he goes up into that attic.
We gotta move back. I'm out of booze money.
I can't afford my booze anymore. Move back to the old home. But yeah, no. So he goes up into the attic for that last time, and as soon as he goes up there, you see all these like ghost kids of all these previous murders, and they're all watching the films of these murders.
He pops his head up in the attic like a gopher.
Yeah, he's like, "Hey, how's it going, guys?"
And then
Another jump scare.
after a pretty decent pause,
yeah,
all the kids turn around and look at him.
Yeah, and they all give him like the finger to the mouth thing, and they're like,
shush. And then he immediately falls down the ladder.
Yeah, well, Pico pops his head out in front of him. I'd be dropping. That guy's a pretty scary dude.
I will say, some of the times that they filmed these kids, it looked a little goofy, like a little not scary, like too light.
They did practical effects on the kids, so like no part of them was like put in under like makeup or anything other than their face. So when it like you see kind of like basically a normal kid, but then they turn their face around and it's all like veiny and like crackly.
Right. But I think it could have been like, they were like lit too brightly and like
you definitely saw too much of them.
Yeah, it should have been spookier.
My thing for that is, his parallel universe or whatever would kind of merge when he was coming to get the kids, because you get what I'm saying? Like the videos were where he kept the children. So when the videos are being played, I think it would blend into the world a little bit. And that's why we saw
like
more
he's
and more
like
of the
opening
kids.
like portals.
And that's why
the
scene where he's looking through his house and the weird Bernie post-apocalyptic daughter is like swooshing behind him.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think that's like kind of a meshing of the two worlds.
Right.
Well, yeah, like I like the metaphor behind it and like the reasoning behind it, but like I just didn't like visually what they did with them. But
yeah, like I kind of see what you're saying. Like they do look a little crusty, and it's like not crusty in like the good way. It's like
it's
crusty,
like you just smeared paint on your face.
like
I mean,
you just like put your face into a tray and you're like,
Mr. Boogie is feeding off their souls.
yeah. So I
they're not
guess
gonna
they're
look
like
great.
slowly decaying. But yeah,
They're getting flaky.
Their design is a little goofy.
Yeah. But yeah, other than that, we see Mr. Boogie, and
Boogie.
he scares us, and then after Ellison. After he falls,
Elephant Ellison.
Yes. After he falls through the attic, he takes all the tapes with him, and he runs outside and starts dousing them in lighter fluid and burns them.
Burns them up.
And of course the wife comes out and she's like, "What are you doing? It's like 4 a.m."
This is one of the times where we were saying, Ethan Hawke kind of can go from 0 to 100 really fast.
Yeah, he goes from 0 to Nicolas Cage pretty quickly, and he's like, "Honey,"
several times throughout
but
the movie.
he's like whispering. He's like, "We need to move.
We need to get out of here."
She's like, "What?" And he's like, "We need to move."
He's like, "Grab the kids, pack your bags, get in the car. We're leaving." And she's like, "I don't understand, Ellison. It's like you're talking in weird languages." And he's like, "Get in the car, you fucking bitch."
So he does get mad. Wording's a little different, but they definitely make a point to show you that all of the film has been burned.
Yes.
And that's the main part of that scene.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I feel like they show you that because every freaking horror film is solved by like, oh, you got to burn some remains, or you got to burn like the the footage or you gotta burn.
Yeah.
But that wasn't
somebody.
instructed to him. It was just
No.
him
Yeah,
going,
no.
I got to get rid of it. I just got to get rid of it.
It's because he didn't go to the library. The library tells you to burn all the remains or burn this or burn that.
I do feel like a lot of movies try to, like, oh, here's the token that the demon is attached to.
Right.
Well, they put it somewhere or give it to someone or try to get rid of it. Or in some houses, you know, they move and the whatever follows them.
Right.
So I feel like that's a common thing, but it's a slightly different take on it.
Right.
Because it wasn't a physical thing. It was a visual thing.
Right.
With these tapes. So yes, it was a physical thing, but he also still had the information of what was on them in his head.
Once you kind of viewed these things,
Right.
you're sealed. Like your fate is sealed from there.
It kind of looked like Mr. Boogie got around easier after he started printing photos of him.
Yeah.
Like, for sure.
Yeah. But yeah, so after him burning the tapes and them getting out of the house, he's speeding through the frickin' town, and the cop pulls him over that we saw in the beginning of the film, and he's like, "Hey, listen, I just want to make sure you're leaving because you want to, and not like, you're gonna write some like chapter about how the townsfolk like scared you away." And Ethan Hawke is like, "Nah, I'm good. Like we're getting out of here. No book."
I will say, I think that ties back to the fact that when he was originally talking to Deputy So-and-so about the previous murders, he made a comment saying like, well, nobody reported anything. Like, would he really? Like, there was nothing weird going on? He's like, yeah, no, nobody said anything. They just, I don't know if they established the house thing yet. I don't think they did, where they were all living in the same houses or whatever. But yeah, like, I think the only reason we had that little moment with the cop is because he actually didn't come out and say anything when he had a chance right there to report something.
Yeah, like there's creepy shit going on in my house. So I'm leaving.
It's insinuating that like the cycle's going to continue and nobody's going to be able to connect them.
Right. So, he tells the cop like, I'm not going to write a book. There's, I'm forgetting about all this. I'm going home. So they leave, they move back into their old house, and
just like at the start of the film.
Right.
He goes and checks the attic immediately.
Yeah. And of course, the first thing he sees in this attic is home movies, extended edition.
He's
same
like,
box.
the fuck?
It's like Lord of the Rings. It's the extended cut.
Well, right, because it's
the true version. The only way to watch them.
It's all the equipment and all the reels, and then an extra envelope with the extended versions.
Right.
And he splices them all up, and there's yet another film splicing, put it
montage
together. Oh, it's great. It's
but
great.
Before
it's completely necessary.
Right. Before he watches it is when he gets the phone call.
Yeah, from Deputy So-and-so.
Right. And he's like, hey, I cracked the code and I figured out what's going on with your creepy story, bro.
Oh, wait, hold on. So, no, before that, he gets images emailed to him from this Vincent D'Onofrio's character. And it's like, the picture of the snake, the picture of the scorpion, and he calls the professor. And the professor basically tells him, like, oh, this demon, lives in its images, and it's the taker of children. So, like, all these things that you're looking into, like, are, like, these cultist things. And, like, the children missing are, according to the stories, eaten by this demon. Mm-hmm. And that's when he sits and watches the reels, and he realizes all the murders were committed by the kids that are now missing, that Bagul takes into this world. So, like, all these, like, these extended cuts are now, like, showing you the kids, like, the first kid, like, sawing the tree branch and then climbing down from the tree, like, saying something to the camera and then disappearing.
I thought he got the phone call from
No, because that's after. Like, he literally hangs up with Deputy So-and-so and then, like, basically passes out on the ground.
Throughout the last, like, 40 minutes of this film, too, he's been dodging
Deputy So-and-so's
calls.
Like, once he gets to the main house, like, he keeps ignoring them. So, yeah, like, he technically does get a bunch of calls from him, but he's ignoring them.
Technically right.
Yeah, technically you were right.
Technically. But yeah, when he is done watching the videos where he sees that all the children are doing the murders, And he actually answers the call. He's basically saying, yeah, so every family that was murdered previously lived in the house of the person that, or the family that got murdered before them.
Right.
So, like, you can go back to every murder, and it's, you know, one person lived in a house and they moved, and then that's where they died. And then somebody else moved into that house, and then they moved. And then it's like a chain reaction of all these different houses.
So it's basically like this demon and all of his victims scare the family enough to get them out of the house. Then he kills them in the new house, makes a video, gets the people who move into that house to watch the video, then gets them to move. And it's like it's a vicious cycle. It's kind of cool. It's kind of cool how he works.
Yeah. And yeah, that's like kind of the twist that, well, leads us into the twist, I guess.
Yeah, because Deputy So-and-so is basically like, dude, if this guy's still around who's been committing these murders since the 60s, like, you either accelerated his timeline or you just put yourself directly into it.
Yeah.
Which is, dude, I'd be freaked the hell out. I'd be like,
right?
do I go back or do I stay here? What do I do?
Yeah, I think
do I take
he
it
was
out or
screwed.
do I leave it in?
He was screwed.
Yeah. No matter what, you're getting begooled.
Yeah. And so, you know, the whole time we're watching this movie, I was assuming that the little boy had something to do with it. You know, the son.
Since he was having like the night terrors.
Right.
Well, they give you the night terrors for the son, and then it was definitely the daughter.
Yeah.
Right.
Sloshing around in the kitchen behind him.
Yeah, because there is that one scene.
So it was even with which of the kids that he wanted.
Right. Well, like there was that one scene, and it's the only scene that kind of gives away that the daughter's going to be the bad one, is when she's in the kitchen drawing and the mom's making the dad's coffee, and she's like, "Hey, are you making his coffee? Like, I want to make it and go bring it to him." So then, you know, when he gets his coffee at the end of the movie, that knocks him out, and you see the green goo in it. It kind of implies like the daughter made it and brought it to him, since the note underneath it says like "Good night, Daddy."
Right.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool how they like subtly set it up, and like you don't really understand the point of that scene other than a little girl trying to bring coffee.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of cool.
Yeah. So, you know, he's drinking coffee, looks down at his cup, and it looks like he emptied a glow stick into the cup.
Yeah, somebody cracked a glow stick in there.
Yeah, a little bit.
So I don't know if that's supposed to be like spirit goo or poison or
You gotta watch out for the spirit goo.
Well, if your reality is in film, it can be whatever you want. It's probably gonna be something weird.
spirit goo.
It's predator blood.
Yeah, it's like glowing
It's
green.
just acid.
Yeah.
And then he passes out on the ground, and it cuts to him being tied up, and you see the back of the mom tied up and the little boy.
And it is, I wouldn't say it's the creepiest like set of kills in the movie, but it's definitely, because you like that little girl, like you were rooting for her, and then she does this weird stuff, and you're like, okay, that was still pretty crazy though.
Like
Yeah.
I think because I was literally gonna say, like, she gives the creepiest line.
Oh yeah,
When she's filming the dad, and she's just like, "Don't worry, Daddy.
I'll make you
I'll
famous
make you
again.
famous again."
Yeah, and she's holding an axe.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
so creepy. Like, and the way she delivers that line is just so unsettling.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, so she puts like the Super 8 camera down, and it just kind of like cuts as it looks like she's like swinging the axe at
Oh,
Ethan
I
Hawke.
wish they would have shown bashing
Yeah.
his face, and
Would have
Yeah.
been
would have
great.
been good.
But then it cuts to, the little girl finishing up her ritual for Bagul. Like, she painted all through the house in blood. There's clearly a blood penis on the wall.
Steve
said he saw a blood
There was
penis
a
on the
blood
wall.
penis. Everybody, go and watch the end of this movie and tell me you don't see a blood penis. But then they zoom in, and it's just like they sketched a little cat in one of the testicles to make it be like, no, we didn't draw a blood penis on the wall. Look, it's a cat. No, there's a blood penis in this movie.
Sure.
There is. I swear to God, it's got the mushroom cap and everything.
But yeah, she's walking through the house, like filming, like, look at all the blood I smeared on the walls. And
Does the shush again?
Yes, does
Yeah.
the shush, and then she's like writing, or she's drawing a picture just like we saw in the beginning, where it's like stick figures of like Mommy, Daddy, Mr. Boogie, and it's like what happened when they
she's
died.
adding her
got all chopped up
murder. And then, she's watching a film of all the previous kids that were murdered, staring at her. She's staring at them. Bagul comes up behind her, picks her up, walks her very gently into the movie.
Oh, yeah.
And just carries her off.
He's got a feed on her soul. He's a gentle guy.
He's ready to go. He's ready for his midnight feeding.
Yeah.
But yeah, and that's, I mean, it ends on another jump scare of Bagul popping his face out, but
that ruined it.
Yeah, it kind of ruined it.
Well, you don't need it, but it's something silly that a lot of other movies have done.
Yeah, you don't need the final credit jump scene. It's like you guys were doing fine up until then. You don't.
Could have just faded into the credits, and it would have been like, oh.
Yeah, that's it's creepy enough with a demon carrying a kid into a projector. Like that's all you need.
But overall, I still feel like 10 years ago, this movie still holds up well.
It really
compared
does.
to some of what we've got in the last 5 years.
Right.
And there's no goofy CGI and stuff like that makes it feel like an old movie. Right. So I literally looked it up because I was like, when did this come out? It doesn't feel like it was that long ago, but 10 years ago.
Yeah. And even the comic relief character, Deputy So-and-so, the few jokes he does tell throughout this movie, don't really take you out of it. It's almost kind of like a welcome inclusion where you're like, holy shit, we just got through a really tense moment. I want to laugh a little bit, just to kind of break the tension.
Yeah, it's not too goofy.
He did manage to make it feel genuine because he was such a fan of his in the first place. So...
and he has an awkwardness to him.
Yeah, and he's tripping over his words, and he's
but
he's just trying to make him like him.
It definitely wasn't too much though.
Right,
because there's a lot of movies that have that exact same character, and they do way too much.
Yeah.
And every time they're on the screen, you don't take it seriously.
Right. Because you're just wow, you just ruined every aspect of scares that I had because you're trying to tell too many jokes within the runtime.
But as to go along with it, it holds up well. There's been some decent horror films that have come out in the past few years, but this is one of them that, 10 years ago when I watched it, I was like, oh, this is going to be around for a while. You knew it was solid all the way around. The first time I saw it 10 years ago.
Right.
Mm-hmm. I am surprised on the ratings that I saw on IMDb. It's 6.5 out of 10 or something, which I was like, oh, really? I really like this movie.
Yeah, I mean, that's about common for horror movies. They really don't get rated very high.
Yeah, some people are super critical, and then other people are like, I just didn't like it. It was too scary.
I didn't like it. It did what it was supposed to
count.
do.
Yeah.
But there's no way to separate them yet.
Oh my God, I went and saw this horror movie and it scared me. Fucking garbage.
But yeah, I mean, I would put this in, one of my favorite horror movies.
Yeah, this is definitely top 10 horror.
Yeah, it's definitely my kind of horror movie too. I like the little bit of psychological, a little bit of spooky, a little bit of murder. It's perfect.
And the twist coming together in the end didn't feel forced.
No.
Yeah.
It definitely felt like, okay, this does make sense. Because even the Vincent D'Onofrio character at the end kind of explains, this demon, tricks or, convinces these kids to join him willingly. So, I can get why, they use the goo, they knock the parents out. So little kids could technically commit these things. It's not out of the realm of possibility. In the world that they set up.
You never see them fighting back, and it wasn't really established in the beginning that anybody was incapacitated from drugs or anything.
Right.
But yeah.
Because realistically, Ethan Hawke could kick this little girl across the room and that wouldn't be a problem anymore for him.
Right.
But with the whole inclusion of you got the demon and he helps them, get these murders done, then it makes more sense within the context.
There is one point in the film where they ask about when did these start, and it was in the 60s or whatever. So what a detective officer so and so or whatever.
Yeah.
So he even said that because it was that far away, he'd probably be old, so drugging would be normal.
It would make sense.
It would make sense. So up until he learned what was going on, he had a valid explanation for why too.
It was either an old man or a small child.
Probably the old man. I don't know if small children are capable.
Right.
But yeah, no. So I mean, that's basically Sinister. Like it still holds up as Michael was saying, but like this still goes down as one of my favorite, like almost like design for the evil character. Like he literally looks like a member out of Slipknot. Like he's so freaking cool.
Yeah.
Like
they didn't do too much with him.
Yeah, no, it's very simple.
There's so many horror films like need to make an ugly creature or the creepy woman or the creepy this or that. And this was like we're just gonna do a little bit, and the story's gonna make him creepy. Yeah, and why he's there is gonna make him creepy, not relying on special effects or this wild looking thing.
And they definitely do it right in the fact that they don't show you him that often.
Yeah,
like,
they don't overuse
they
him.
Slowly give you glimpses of him, and then by the time you finally see his full thing, it's the end of the movie.
Yeah.
And like that's what I feel like these modern horror things like really kind of get wrong. Like they showed you the Nun way too quickly and way too often. Like they show you, you know, in that new Conjuring movie, they show you like the fucking things way too often and way too frequently. So it's like it's not scary anymore because you're expecting it.
It desensitizes you.
Right. So when they're slowly showing you this demon and slowly giving you glimpses of his face, like you're kind of like, holy fuck, this thing is like no joke.
Well, it makes it doesn't, you know, not make you work for it, but as a viewer, like it does make you invest a little bit in it to get rewarded, where society's gone to a much more problem solution.
Right.
Here's the thing, it's right here. Here, look at it first to get you hooked. Where this was like, we're just going to start telling a story, and you're either going to like it or you're not.
It's like, we're going to baby bird you.
And I do like how they told the story. Like I feel like it was a well-told story.
They did a really good job at setting up the characters, setting up the motivation, setting up the evil force in the movie, and taking it out of town with that.
I will say this, you know, it doesn't have that, you know, that like 4.5 minutes in a horror film where you're like, who okayed that to be in the movie? And why did they need to waste camera time on that?
Right.
I feel like this had like it. The only thing it did too long would be like a couple seconds it would hold a certain camera shot for a couple seconds too long, or some of those screeching noises. I feel like they could have shortened those a little bit, but it didn't have a section in the film where you felt like it was unnecessary in a horror film. To just pure fluff, pure dialogue that didn't make sense.
Right.
Like, there was always something in the story being told by what was on the screen.
Right. But yeah, I mean, I would say we all would highly recommend this movie. Like, definitely if you have not seen it yet, and we didn't just spoil everything that happens in it.
Well, yeah, if you haven't seen it, you just listen to this whole thing.
Like, definitely go check it out. Like, it's you know, like as we said, it's probably our top 10 horror movies.
Or
like,
if you have already seen it and it's been 10 years since you've seen it, then rewatch it and, you know, take a little deeper look into how they did it, and then remember that it was 10 years ago.
Yeah, every time I watch it again, I still enjoy it just as much.
You pick up a little thing here and there too, and
right.
But yeah, any final just closing thoughts? No, you guys good?
No, and the violence in it, even through video, it was creepy enough to satisfy, because you don't know what genre it is. Like, it from the cover, it looks like it's going to be real bloody,
right?
And it ends up being gory and creepy in a different way than just
more
flat
in a
out
like subtle
way.
way.
Here it is on the screen. This is it happening now.
Right.
But that you know, that was just artistically a cool way to do it.
Right. But yeah, so I mean, I think we made ourselves pretty clear. You know, go watch Sinister. 10 out of 10 all around.
I mean, I don't think it's perfect. I maybe give it like an 8.5 or 9, but like, yeah, it's definitely pretty good.
I'm not rating these movies, but in 2012, this and a couple other films definitely shaped how the genre went for almost another decade.
Right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that'll just about do it here for us at Every Film in the Book. we're gonna say goodbye here, and I guess a happy Halloween since this is technically October.
Goodbye.
Goodbye. Say goodbye, Michael.
No.
Okay.